Hi. I'm interested in getting artificial turf installed, about 800 square feet. But I need a custom print. Okay, sir. We do putting greens, company logos sometimes. Great. I want my face. Excuse me? My face. Printed on the turf. Covering the whole lawn. Long pause. Ooh. Sir, are you feeling all right? Click. The second call wasn't much better. You want, like a mural of your face on the grass? The woman asked, sounding deeply confused. Is this for an art project? Sort of, I said brightly. An art project in passive aggression. Click. Contractor number 3 just laughed and hung up. Ah, Saturday. The glorious, sun-drenched pinnacle of the week. The day ordained, I'm pretty sure by divine decree, for sleeping late, questionable breakfast choices involving leftover pizza, and the blissful absence of yard work. Around me, the suburban symphony was kicking into gear. The distant whine of leaf blowers, the rhythmic ch-ch-ch of competing sprinkler systems carving precise arcs onto unnaturally green carpets, the low rumble of lawnmowers dutifully enforcing the neighborhood's unspoken code of absolute turf conformity. My lawn, however, was playing jazz. It wasn't a jungle, mind you. I wasn't cultivating boa constrictors or anything. But let's just say it had personality, character, a certain laissez-faire attitude towards uniformity. Dandelions, which I preferred to think of as cheerful sunbursts rather than horticultural invaders, stood tall and unapologetic. Clover, soft and inviting, formed little constellations amidst the grass, which itself ranged in height from recently startled to contemplating middle school. It was, in my humble opinion, expressive, free-range. If Pam, our resident HOA enforcer, asked, it was my carefully curated native pollinator habitat. Yeah, that sounded suitably pretentious and environmentally conscious. I took another sip of coffee, lounging on my porch swing, feeling the warmth on my face. Across the street, my neighbor Dave was already engaged in mortal combat with his self-propelled mower, sweat beading on his brow. He caught my eye and gave a weary wave. I returned it with a lazy salute, feeling a pang of sympathy mixed with smug satisfaction. Poor Dave, trapped in the cycle of mow, edge, repeat. My zen moment was shattered by the high-pitched whine of an electric motor approaching with alarming speed. I didn't even need to look. It was the sound of impending judgment, the harbinger of horticultural hassle. A pristine white golf cart, adorned with a ridiculously official-looking little HOA flag fluttering from its canopy, zipped around the corner and screeched to a halt precisely at the edge of my property line. The driver's side door opened, and out stepped Pam. Pam wasn't just the HOA president. She was the self-appointed guardian of neighborhood aesthetics, the high priestess of property values, the iron fist in the velvet glove of suburban conformity. She wore a visor pulled low, khaki shorts pleated with military precision, and carried a clipboard like a scepter. Her eyes, magnified slightly by sensible glasses, swept across my lawn with the same expression of distaste usually reserved for discovering mold on artisanal cheese. "Mark, good morning." Her tone implied that the good part was debatable, largely due to the state of my turf area. "Pam," I replied, keeping my voice light. "Always a pleasure, admiring my burgeoning ecosystem." She ignored my attempt at humor, already consulting her clipboard. "Your turf area," she emphasized the term, "is exhibiting significant non-compliance." "Is that the official term now? Turf area? Sounds like something you'd find at a sports stadium, not a place where squirrels bury their nuts." "Bylaw 12.c, paragraph 2, she recited, tapping the clipboard with a perfectly manicured finger. "Grass height shall not exceed 3 inches. You have multiple instances, She gestured vaguely at a particularly enthusiastic patch near the mailbox, exceeding 5, possibly even 6 inches. She paused for dramatic effect. And let's not even start on Bylaw 14. A. Proliferation of unapproved botanical specimens. Botanical specimens? I echoed, feigning innocence. You mean the dandelions? They're cheerful, like little suns. And the clover adds nitrogen to the soil, Pam. It's practically self-fertilizing. They're weeds, Mark, she stated flatly. Unsightly weeds. This constitutes your first verbal warning. Expect a formal notice outlining the required remediation within 72 hours. She gave my lawn one last withering glare, climbed back into her chariot of judgment, and zipped away, leaving a faint scent of ozone and disapproval in her wake. I watched her go, shaking my head. 6 inches. The horror. Did she carry a tiny laser measure in her golf cart? Did she lie awake at night worrying about the structural integrity of slightly overgrown fescue? My internal monologue was already drafting sarcastic replies. Dear Pam, regarding bylaw 12.c, please note that letting it grow is a valid form of artistic expression. See attached manifesto on lawnarchy. The formal notice arrived exactly 71 hours later, printed on paper so thick and cream-colored it felt like it should have announced a royal wedding, not demanded the decapitation of dandelions. It detailed my crimes against curb appeal with alarming specificity, citing dates and estimated offending grass heights. I used it as a coaster for my beer that evening, figuring that was about the respect it deserved. A week passed. In a gesture of minimal compliance, I ran the mower over a single, easily accessible strip along the sidewalk. It looked ridiculous, like a bad haircut on an otherwise shaggy head, but technically I had mowed. Apparently, my token effort was insufficient. The following Saturday, another cream envelope appeared. This one contained not just stern warnings, but a tangible consequence: a $50 fine for continued aesthetic nonconformity and failure to adhere to mandated turf standards. $50? I muttered, staring at the invoice. For what? Failure to suppress botanical enthusiasm? This isn't an HOA. It's a protection racket run by lawn fascists. The real tipping point, however, came the following Tuesday at the quarterly HOA meeting, held, as always, in Bob Peterson's, the HOA president before Pam staged her bloodless coup, now relegated to treasurer, cavernously tidy garage. Pam, giving her state-of-the-neighborhood address, decided to use visual aids. And by visual aids, I mean she projected a slightly blurry, zoomed-in photo of my lawn onto the garage door. And this kind of blatant disregard for community standards, she declared, pointing a laser pointer at a particularly robust dandelion in the photo, as exemplified by Plot 3B, drags down all our property values. It sends a message of neglect, of apathy. Heads turned. Neighbors shifted uncomfortably. I could feel my face flushing. Plot 3B. That was me. Publicly shamed by the grass Gestapo over a weed. A cheerful, sunny, shouldn't-be-illegal weed. I sat through the rest of the meeting simmering. The humiliation stung more than the fine. She wanted conformity? She wanted adherence to standards? Fine. She'd get it. But she'd get it on my terms. An idea, sparked by pure, unadulterated spite and a touch of genius, or madness, the line was blurry, began to bloom in my mind. An idea involving permanent solutions and malicious compliance on an epic scale. Later that night, staring bleakly out my living room window at the offending lawn, now bathed in the accusatory glow of a street lamp, I considered my options. Pave it over? Too permanent, too ugly. Gravel? Like living in a quarry. Rock garden? Requires actual gardening. Then it hit me. Artificial turf. The ultimate suburban cheat code. Always green, always perfect, never needs mowing. Pam would hate the artificiality, but she couldn't argue with the height. It was almost perfect. Almost. But just replacing the grass felt like losing. Like admitting defeat. It needed something more. Something personal. Something that screamed, "Yeah, I complied, but I did it my way, and isn't it beautifully obnoxious?" My fingers flew across the keyboard. Weird artificial turf. Custom pattern artificial grass. Print on fake lawn. And there it was. A handful of companies offering custom printing, logos, patterns, even theoretically, photos. A slow, wicked grin spread across my face. What's the most personal, most unavoidable, most ridiculously defiant image I could possibly plaster across my front yard? My own face. A giant, unblinking, maybe slightly smug visage rendered in glorious, weatherproof shades of plastic green, staring up at the sky, at Pam, at God and everyone. It was insane. It was probably going to cost a fortune. It was the single greatest idea I'd ever had. Operation, facial turf, was a go. The next day, armed with coffee and a simmering sense of righteous purpose, I started making calls. The first few turf companies reacted predictably. "Good morning, Acme Turf Solutions. How can I help you?" "Hi, I'm interested in getting artificial turf installed, about 800 square feet, but I need a custom print." "Okay, sir, we do putting greens, company logos sometimes." "Great, I want my face." Excuse me?" "My face, printed on the turf, covering the whole lawn." Long pause. "Sir, are you feeling all right?" Click. The second call wasn't much better. "You want, like a mural of your face on the grass?" the woman asked, sounding deeply confused. "Is this for an art project?" "Sort of," I said brightly. "An art project in passive aggression." Click. Contractor number 3 just laughed and hung up. I was beginning to despair. Was my vision too bold, too beautiful for the mundane world of synthetic grass? Then, I stumbled upon Sal's Surefire Turf and Stuff. The website looked like it was designed in 1998, featuring blurry photos and excessive exclamation points. It screamed maybe slightly shady, but possibly desperate enough. I dialed. A voice that sounded like it gargled gravel answered gruffly. "Sal's Turf." "Hi, Sal," I began, launching into my now practiced pitch. So yeah, 800 square feet, standard green background, but the main feature is a high-resolution print of my face." There was a long, considering silence on the other end. I could almost hear Sal stroking a metaphorical beard. "Your face," he finally rumbled. "My face," I confirmed. "The whole lawn. Every glorious square inch." Another pause. Then, a sound that might have been a chuckle, or possibly just Sal clearing his throat of cement dust. "Huh. You serious, kid?" "Dead serious, Sal. HOA's been riding me about mowing. This seems like the most efficient, long-term solution." "Efficient," Sal echoed, the chuckle definitely there now. Okay, never done a face before. Did a giant pizza slice for a frat house once. Did a whole field look like a circuit board for some tech company. Never a face. It's gonna cost you. Custom print setup ain't cheap. The ink alone. Plus, he added thoughtfully, my guys are gonna need hazard pay for the sheer weirdness. Hazard pay for weirdness. I laughed. Fair enough. Send the quote, Sal. Let's make facial lawn history. The quote arrived later that day. It was, as predicted, eye-watering, enough to buy a very nice riding mower or possibly fund a small militia. I looked at the HOA fine notice still sitting on my desk. I thought about Pam's smug face at the meeting. I hit reply. Quote accepted. Let's do this. Now came the crucial step. Selecting the face. This wasn't just any selfie. This was the face that would silently mock Pam for years to come. I spent an entire evening posing in front of my phone. Serious? Too aggressive. Goofy grin? Too flippant? Winking? Might be misinterpreted. I finally settled on a shot where I looked pleasant, maybe a little challenging, with just the hint of a smirk playing around my lips. The kind of look that says, "Yes, I know this is ridiculous, problem." I emailed the high-res file to Sal's designated designer, a woman named Tina. The email exchanges with Tina were surreal. Subject, Project Facial Lawn, Image Query. Hi Mark, Tina here. Regarding the image file, could you confirm the desired level of smirk? Scale of 1, 10? Also, the reflection in your glasses appears to be a pizza box. Should we digitally remove that? Subject, Project Facial Lawn, Image Query. Hi Tina, let's keep the smirk at a solid 7/10. Pizza box reflection adds authenticity. Please leave it in. Can we match the green background turf to my eye color? Hazel green blend. Subject, Project Facial Lawn, Image Query. Mark, matching turf to eye color is unusual. Standard greens #4, emerald, or #5, forest, are recommended for realism. Also, confirming desired nostril shading, subtle or defined. Subject, Project Facial Lawn, Image Query. Tina, let's go with forest green #5. Subtle nostril shading, please. Don't want to look angry, just resolutely present. Meanwhile, Sal's crew arrived to prep the yard. This involved ripping out my beloved native pollinator habitat and replacing it with layers of gravel and sand. Pam watched the proceedings from her golf cart parked across the street, a look of smug satisfaction on her face. She clearly thought I was caving, installing boring, compliant, normal artificial turf. Oh, the delicious irony. If only she knew what image was currently being meticulously printed onto giant rolls of synthetic grass in Sal's warehouse. The anticipation was almost unbearable. Installation day dawned bright and clear, perfect weather for unleashing aesthetic chaos upon suburbia. Sal's truck rumbled up the street shortly after 8, followed by a flatbed carrying several large, heavy rolls covered in plain black plastic. Sal emerged, looking exactly like I'd pictured. Grizzled, stocky, wearing a faded cap advertising a brand of fertilizer I'd never heard of. His crew, 3 younger guys, looked profoundly bored, ready for another day of laying down fake grass. They had no idea. They started work quickly, spreading the final layer of sand, leveling it meticulously. Neighbors began their usual Saturday morning routines, walking dogs, getting mail, washing cars. Eyes drifted towards my yard, curiosity piqued by the activity. Pam, naturally, was already stationed in her golf cart at the end of my driveway, observing like a hawk. She even gave me a tight little nod, the kind that said, "See, I knew you'd come to your senses." I just smiled back innocently. Then came the moment. Sal gestured towards the flatbed. "All right, boys. Bring out the first roll. Lay her down easy starting from the porch. Customer wants, portrait orientation." The crew wrestled the first heavy roll onto the lawn. They cut away the black plastic wrapping. They positioned the edge near my porch steps. Slowly, carefully, they began to unroll it. Green. More green. Then, a shape. An unmistakably curved shape. "Whoa," one of the younger crew members muttered, pausing. "Is that an ear?" Sal spat on the ground. "Looks like it. Keep rolling." They unrolled further. The ear connected to a hairline. Then, unmistakably, an eye appeared. A giant, green, hazel-flecked eye, staring blankly at the sky. The second crew member stopped. "Dude, it's huge! What the hell is this?" "Told you," Sal grunted. "Custom job. Now keep it straight. We don't want him looking cockeyed." Word was spreading. Neighbors were emerging from their houses, phones held aloft. Whispers turned into murmurs. Dave texted me from his window. "Holy crap, is that your nose on your lawn?" Pam, sensing something was amiss, abandoned her golf cart and marched towards Sal, clipboard held like a shield. "Excuse me, what is the meaning of this? That pattern wasn't approved in the landscaping plan." Sal wiped sweat from his brow, unfazed. "No plan needed for turf replacement, ma'am. Just gotta meet height regs. And this here's a custom order. Specifications per client." He gestured towards the growing facial feature with his thumb. They unrolled the second roll. The nose took shape. Then the mouth, frozen in that perfect 7/10 smirk. My face, rendered in glorious forest green #5, was emerging onto the suburban landscape like some kind of bizarre chia pet deity. Pam's face went slack. Her mouth opened and closed silently. The clipboard slipped from her fingers, scattering papers across my newly installed cheekbone. The look of dawning horror on her face was worth every single overpriced penny. The final piece clicked into place near the curb. The crew stood back, looking at their handiwork with a mixture of exhaustion and sheer disbelief. There it was, 80 square feet of my face, smiling smugly up at the heavens. It was horrifying. It was magnificent. It was undeniably mine. The gathered neighbors gasped. A few started laughing openly. Someone applauded. Pam, however, finally found her voice. "This," she shrieked, her voice cracking, "is unacceptable. It's obscene. It's a violation of common sense and decency and aesthetics and property values. I'm calling the police. I'm calling the mayor. I'm calling Channel 5 News." She was practically vibrating, her face turning an alarming shade of puce. She actually stomped onto the lawn, right onto my giant forehead. I chose that moment to make my entrance, strolling casually out onto the porch, sipping my lemonade. "Problem, Pam?" I called out cheerfully. "It's low maintenance, perfectly level, guaranteed under 3 inches, always. No weeds in sight. Meets all technical requirements of the bylaws." I beamed, spreading my hands wide in a gesture of, what could possibly be wrong? Sal, wiping his hands on a rag, approached me with the final invoice and a pen. He jerked his head towards the sputtering HOA president. "She gonna have an aneurysm?" "Probably," I said, taking the pen. He chuckled, a deep rumble in his chest. "Sign here, face man. Weirdest damn job I ever did." He looked from me to the lawn and back again. "Gotta admit, kinda impressive. The likeness ain't bad." Just as I signed, the distant wail of sirens grew closer. Pam hadn't been bluffing. A police cruiser pulled up, lights flashing unnecessarily. 2 officers emerged. One was older, with weary eyes and the air of a man who had seen too much suburban absurdity in his career, Miller. The other was younger, trying hard to look serious, but with a definite twinkle of amusement in his eyes, Johnson. Pam rushed towards them, launching into a frantic, high-pitched explanation, pointing wildly at me, then at the lawn, then back at me. Miller held up a hand, sighing audibly. "Okay, ma'am, please calm down. Let me get this straight. The lawn has his face on it?" "Yes," Pam cried. "It's hideous. It's against the rules. It's visual pollution. Arrest him." Miller approached me cautiously, while Johnson began slowly circling the lawn, examining my giant face with an expression of profound professional curiosity. "Okay, son," Miller said, his voice tired. "Let's start simple. Why is your face on the lawn?" "Long story, officer," I replied calmly. "Short version. My HOA has very specific rules about lawn maintenance. This," I gestured proudly at my facial lawn, "is my creative, low-maintenance solution, fully compliant with all height and weed regulations. Is it illegal?" Miller pinched the bridge of his nose. "Dispatch mentioned something about An obscene image? It's my face, officer, I said earnestly. My mother thinks it's lovely, hardly obscene. Johnson completed his circuit, stopping near my left eye. Gotta admit, he muttered, loud enough for Miller and me to hear. The detail on the 5 o'clock shadow is impressive. Is that forest green #5? I beamed. Good eye, officer. Pam looked ready to spontaneously combust. Arrest him for disturbing the peace. Look how disturbed I am. Miller sighed again, a sound deep with the weight of bureaucratic absurdity. Ma'am, visual pollution isn't technically a crime. And as far as I can see, he gestured vaguely at my giant chin, it's not violating any public decency laws. It's unusual, I'll grant you that. Extremely unusual, but not illegal. He turned back to Pam. This appears to be an HOA civil matter. You'll have to take it up with them. He tipped his cap to me, shot Johnson a look that clearly said, let's get out of here before I lose my mind. And they retreated to their cruiser. As they drove away, I could have sworn I saw Officer Johnson shaking with suppressed laughter in the passenger seat. Scored 2 for loophole landscaping. Pam, thwarted by the long arm of the law, or its lack of jurisdiction over weird lawns, immediately called for an HOA emergency meeting, subject the facial turf crisis. The meeting, held that very evening in Bob Peterson's garage, was even more tense than usual. Pam, armed with freshly printed copies of bylaws and righteous indignation, proposed an emergency amendment, banishing non-traditional turf patterns. This amendment is crucial, she declared, her voice trembling slightly, to restoring neighborhood decorum and preventing further facial vandalism. Chaos erupted. But Pam, chirped Betty from down the street, I just ordered custom turf with my prize-winning poodle Fifi's face on it. Is Fifi banned now too? This is a slippery slope, argued Carl from across the way. If we banned faces, what's next? Pink flamingos? Those cheerful little garden gnomes. Frankly, added another neighbor, leaning back in his lawn chair, Mark's lawn is the most interesting thing to happen around here since Mrs. Henderson's prize zucchini mysteriously disappeared before the county fair. I, of course, attended, armed with my own printouts of the existing bylaws. I calmly pointed out that my lawn was, in fact, 100% compliant. It requires no watering, thus conserving resources, I argued smoothly. It eliminates the need for polluting lawnmowers. It provides a unique and memorable landmark for our community. And, I added, unable to resist, it's always perfectly trimmed, meeting Bylaw 12. See day in, day out. The debate raged, accusations flew, slippery slope arguments collided with aesthetic outrage. In the end, Pam's emergency amendment failed to get the required 2/3 majority. She looked utterly defeated. Watching her try and fail to legislate against my face was rapidly becoming my new favorite spectator sport. In the weeks that followed, my lawn achieved minor legendary status. Teenagers started making pilgrimages to take selfies, usually posing on my giant nose or trying to perch on my chin. I occasionally had to shoo them off. Hey, get off my eyebrow. Local blogs ran pieces with titles like Suburbia Gets a Facelift, One Man's Lawn Rebellion, or The Face That Launched 1,000 HOA Complaints. One afternoon I got a call. Marky boy, Sal here. Hey Sal, what's up? Saw you on the Local Oddities segment on Channel 5. Hilarious. Listen, business is booming since your job went viral. Getting calls for pet faces, college logos, even a marriage proposal spelled out in turf. You started a trend, kid. I laughed. Glad I could help, Sal. Hey, listen, he said, lowering his voice conspiratorially. Quick pitch. Matching driveway decal. Maybe giant green footprints leading up to your front door. Just think about it. We could do seasonal overlays too. Santa hat for Christmas. I'll keep it in mind, Sal, I chuckled. Me, a turf trendsetter. Who knew? Life settled into a new, slightly more surreal normal. The initial furor died down. The face lawn became just another quirky feature of the neighborhood, like the house with too many Christmas lights, or the guy who walks his parrot on a leash. Pam, unable to rally support or find a legal loophole, seemed to accept defeat. She rerouted her golf cart patrols to actively avoid my side of the street. If we passed each other, she'd stare fixedly ahead, pretending I and my lawn face didn't exist. And so, on subsequent Saturday mornings, while the symphony of mowers played on around me, I'd sit on my porch, coffee in hand, feet up, enjoying the profound peace of zero lawn care obligations. I'd look out at my own giant, green, slightly smug face staring back at me from the yard. Dave leaned over the hedge one morning. "Still looks creepy as hell, man," he admitted, wiping sweat from his brow after finishing his own mowing. "But gotta admit, you won." I took a slow sip of coffee, savoring the moment. "Never underestimate the power of petty landscaping, Dave," I said wisely. "Never underestimate it." She wanted conformity. She got a confrontation with my face. Every single day. Check. Mate. Now. About those seasonal overlays Sal mentioned. A giant pair of sunglasses for summer? Maybe a jaunty pilgrim hat for Thanksgiving? The possibilities were beautifully, absurdly endless.